Hello. My starting is a bit late on account of some internet problems, but I think stuff is stable now. Let me know if things seem to be going awry. I am Gregory Avery Weir. This is Future Proof Plays, where we play short, weird games um, and chat as we do it. Tonight I will be talking a bit about the Flash games that I made way back in the day. We recently we recently repackaged a lot of them since Flash is not really viable in the browser anymore. Um, we've made downloadable versions of four of the big ones that are available for download on futureproofgames.com and at futureproofgames.itch.io. And I want to work on getting some of the ones that aren't FBG hosted transitioned over to a downloadable format as well. I'm not sure when I'll get around to that, but if anyone has any questions about those games, please bring up your questions. Otherwise, I'll chat about them as I play. The game I'm playing is called Deep Under the Sky. This is a game from 2014. It originally came out on mobile platforms, and it's created by Rich Edwards and Colin Northway, with a decent amount of support from Max Boxleiter. Um, Colin Northway is notable for making Fantastic Contraption and Incredipede. Um, Fantastic Contraption was a Flash game from 2008, which was one of the big, like, hey, Flash games can do cool physics stuff and you can have cool level editing and that sort of thing. So that game is a contemporary of some of the games that I made, and Northway's partner, uh, Sarah, S name Northway, made the Rebuild series. Um, may have lost all of the frames. I'm still seeing everything is okay, so I'm gonna move forward and we'll see how that does. So let me know. But I will start playing. This is a single button game, so I'm just going to be clicking to play, or I might switch to spacebar depending on which hand I want free. But it's advertised as a game you can play while petting your cat, which I think is effective. Okay. Hopefully this continues working. We'll see. My internet seems to be acting weird, but I'll pull back into the very introduction. Introduction, verse 1. The dark side of Venus glows with an ashen light. The faint glow of Venus is one of the oldest mysteries in astronomy. The first observers thought it might be giant fires burning away verdant jungles or people celebrating the ascendance of a new ruler. This game's just gorgeous and weird looking. Just lovely, very Flash style, like skeletal animation and a bunch of pretty vector art, like all arranged and layered on top of itself. So, from what I can understand, this space down in the lower left shows you what the next actions will be when you use your button, which I'm going to click for now. All right. So I can explode near nest to plant babies. Looks like there's 2 stars, so presumably special goals. Fill every nest to perpetuate your species. So do I have to be in a certain spot in order to explode? Seems like it. Okay. Now I can explode at a different time. There. Okay, so I got one of the stars. I'm gonna fall past this goal to see if I can spot where the next star is. Okay. So it's way down at the bottom. Fly up to the next area. That's cute. So as you can tell, it's definitely got that like ported from mobile feel. Although like this is totally like looks good in the resolution of a desktop computer. What? Third tap explodes. Okay. First tap launches, second jets, third explodes. Okay. Yeah, this is really, really pretty. Something that I always I've always been jealous at folks who seem to be very good at making games very pretty. I think I've got a decent aesthetic sense, but I've never really been... Okay, the range of that explosion is relatively low. I've never really been, like, just my artistic technique isn't quite there. Or I just don't have enough practice or something. So these... Oh. That's not what I wanted to do. There are like little beady boops floating around that are kind of giving me a guide as to angles I might want to take. Okay, so I missed one of the stars there, which is fine. One of the underwater locations in Sunless Sea. Yeah, I don't think I played the underwater version, the Submariner expansion. I definitely saw it played at least once, but yeah, this, like, the way that these graphics are made is also pretty similar to how Sunless Sea's art is made, where it's like layering on a bunch of bits of art in an interesting way. And I'm generally a sucker for like undersea imagery. One of the Flash games that we packaged up in downloadable format is I fell in love with the Majesty of Colors, the original Flash version, because we also have a purchasable polished up version that you can buy on Steam or on itch. But we also have the original version just in a mode in which you can play it. Yeah, I mean, I can see this being... There are some things in here that I think some folks would kind of have a creepy revulsion response to. There's sort of the... What's it called when you have a problem with, like, little series of little holes? Like... I want to know what it is that comes out off of the explosion. There's like a little almost humanoid figure that sometimes shows up. There. These things. But yeah, it's not going for creepy, I think. It's going for weird and psychedelic. Okay, so there are animals. Those humanoid things are critters. There's an eyeball. There are eyeballs on the walls. I don't know what that is. Yeah, teddygrams. Yeah, that's an apt illusion. Okay, can I explode at that star now? Yes. Alright, do I need to go down? Okay, I've got arrows on the edges that I can use to figure out where I'm going. I like the music. I like the kind of progression, like this, the soft hi-hat that's playing now, the brushed snare, like it's kind of weird and chill and appropriate, and I think it cuts in as we get closer. Little Big Planet. Yeah, sort of that things pasted together. Hi, Lucy. Um, also reminds me of. Oh, damn. Hmm, I've lost it. I've blinked. Hmm. Okay, so I can do this, and then that, and then, oh, didn't quite get to the star. Hmm. Hmm. If I launch here, hmm. If I launch there. Hmm. Okay, got it. This is very physics gamey in the sense of like some of the things I'm doing are just try it a few times with slightly different timing each time to see if you can get a thing through a gap. Hmm. Can't quite get to that star. I'm not sure how much I care about stars. Like, I've never been the sort of person to be like, I want to get every star in every level. Unless I'm super duper fond of a game, and also, I got that one. And also, I really enjoy the moment to moment. Huh. Hmm. Okay. Got it. Yeah, those weird green teddygram critters kind of seem to emerge from the ground when I impact it, which is troubling. does that mean? However many stars in Mario. I don't know if I 100%ed Mario Galaxy. That's a little different because those games, it's not like get this little extra thing. Those tend to be separate goals. I think I got everything on Super Mario Odyssey. I think I didn't get like whatever the maximum number of coins was, but I got all the, I forget what it is, but whatever the collectible progression is in Odyssey, I got all of those. Um, oh, okay. All right, so I bounce off of yellow surfaces. And I think so. One of the other Flash games that we packaged up to make it downloadable was Silent Conversation, which is a weird running on words. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked again. Platformer. And I think something that was maybe a design mistake that I made with that game was kind of trying to add secondary objectives in a way that wasn't really what the game was about. Like, that probably would have been a better game if I just like just had the levels and not worried about like you can do a time race or try and get 100% or whatever, because that wasn't really that wasn't what the game was about. I think it works well for this game, just because like this is sort of a game about, oh, can you get this bank shot just right, right? Like this is essentially golf, and you know, mini golf is cool, and doing cool tricks in mini golf is cool. So I think it works with the way that the rules in this work, but not all games should have these optional stars. Can I just? I'm just gonna try exploding as soon as I can. Nope, I cannot. Huh. I'm not sure how I'm gonna end up getting these things. I bet I'll be going. Okay. Interesting. And then, okay. Didn't quite get that aligned right. I love so all of the little particle effects and shapes, like if you look at the things that make up this line and this symbol here, like none of these are, they didn't take the easy way out on designing any of these. So like, I mean, I guess, so this arrow, right? The chevron that indicates where additional goals are. That's one example of like, that's a real standard way of doing that, right? And it's not bad, but you know, it's just what you would expect. But so much of the, I guess all the elements that are at least somewhat diegetic, the special effects, the particle effects, and so on, the things that they're made up of, all feel very like custom to this world and custom to this aesthetic, which is real cool. Like this could feel a lot more Angry Birdsy if they just used explosion sprites like that weren't themed to the world. All right, what now? Where does this go? Okay, cool. Yeah, like these aren't just swoops. These aren't just circles. They're like weird little swirl wormy explosion things. Very cool. I like the little bubbles that guide you like coins in a Mario game. Yeah, the snare, and I think that's a hi-hat. Um, cut in when you've got like X left, or maybe it toggles between having snare or not. Not sure. Huh. What do I do here? Alright, what happens if I just fall? Okay. Okay, I bet I can trigger the boost, hit that, yeah. Okay. Slightly different timing, and that'll get me where I want to go. Slightly earlier? Slightly earlier. Split the difference. There we go. I also like this sort of just like bob away afterwards. The level names are good too. They might be obscured by my camera, but this one's called Angulo. Um, I don't know if they're like actual Venusian geographical terms or if they're biological components of a jellyfishy thing. The only story that's been so far is kind of Boy Venus is weird, and the reveal that there are these jellyfishy things on it, and that's it. This level's big. Got hiccups. Where do I go now? Okay. The camera sometimes feels a little like it's not doing what I expect. I bet I can somehow arc over there. Not sure how yet, though. Yeah, so like that. Like, it felt like the camera snapped back too fast. I don't know if I accidentally clicked or what. I don't want to go that way. Kind of just want to pop straight up, I think, after bouncing on this. Yeah. And then I kind of need to launch myself in a real long arc, shallower than that. And I think I'm going to end up sort of coasting over. No, I think I'm going to end up coasting like through that gap. Need to be real shallow though. There we go. So speaking of Flash, this follows a format that isn't my favorite, which is the sort of like here is a sequence of levels that was really popular in Flash puzzle games, where it's just sort of like here are some challenges, um, which since I'm a sucker for, I just sort of clicked randomly there. Since I'm a sucker for story, uh, that never was really my ideal way of formatting a thing. Um, and I'm expecting, so this is still saying chapter 1, so I'm betting that there will be a little nugget of something between chapter 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 or wherever that shows up. But when I did exploit which is one of the 4 games we packaged up um, for down packaged up in order that you could download them. Um, Sorry, I've got stream jitters tonight for some reason. Um, Exploit, I wanted to do a puzzle game, but I didn't want it to just be a sequence of puzzles. And so that's why there's so much story tied in with each puzzle and an understanding of what you're doing and a theming to each puzzle that matches that story. Because it matches, I like games that are telling a narrative. Um, and that was a way of exploring that in Exploit, and that carried through into Exploit Zero Day, where we've got a pretty in-depth story for a social puzzle game. I think I want to bounce up here. Oh, I did not expect to get that star there. Kind of pop straight up. Yeah. Did I get the other one? I did not. But like, my hope here is that this game has like some amount of visual distinction um, from chapter to chapter or something like that, um, so that sort of there's a feeling of progression and variety that you get. Because otherwise, like, I often find my attention wandering if it's just the same thing again and again. Some games don't do that to me. Oh yeah, good link. So that's the link in the chat has the 4 games, and then if you just go to futureproofgames.itch.io, it's like down at the bottom. There's a scroller for it as well. Something that I can't really point out as I'm playing, but you should keep an eye out for, is that so this arc shows the path that we took last time, and you'll see a little symbol at the end of it that marks where I clicked before, where I clicked my previous attempt. And that's a really good quality of life thing especially for a physics game like this, where it's like, I know I can aim to just do a little earlier or a little later and have a clear indication of what was that action. So keep an eye out for it. Okay, so I aimed a little earlier on that one, and I should have gone later actually. So I want to go especially later. Oh, even later than that. Because I want to go through that gap over there. So we'll see if I can make it. Almost. A little later than that. Flash Game Era was so great. I miss it. I mean, there are a lot of things that were rough about it. I didn't like getting sponsorships, so this was made by one of the people who made this is the person who made Fantastic Contraption, and that was one of those games that like tried for an alternate model. Like Fantastic Contraption was free and hosted on its own site, but you could pay money for the level editor, I think is how they did it. And it was presumably successful enough. Yeah. Because, I mean, Northway kept making games. Oh, I should be paying attention to my arrow indicator. And by the way, Fantastic Contraption VR is one of my favorite VR games, just in terms of like how it's designed. Do I just need to rock it off immediately? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this was so Fantastic Contraption. Incredipede was done by Colin Northway as well, and then Rich Edwards worked on this, and Rich Edwards is behind Pineapple Smash Crew. Oh, and Northway Games. So it's Colin Northway and Sarah or Susan. I'm blanking. It's a femme S name. they're working on a game called I Was a Teenage Exocolonist, which seems to be it's a really gorgeous game that has at least some dating sim elements, and I'm not sure if it's like farming or what in addition to that. But it looks very cute and cool, um, and I'm excited to see. Hmm. Oh, interesting. Okay, so now I launch and then go straight up and explode. So I think I can go straight up and then fall straight down again and get this star. Okay. And then if I shoot, like if I hug close to this wall and then oop, okay, I've got a little bit of inertia. But I need to get pretty close to this wall and then explode right up at the top. Yeah. But yeah, this sort of the physicsy stuff that tends to show up in Northway's games reminds me of a lot of the physics game work that was being done around that time, both in Flash and in other things where people were doing some real cool experimentation with just like we're finally at a time when it's real easy to get a good physics simulation. Like we figured out rigid body physics, we figured out that sort of thing. You can put it in a game really easily, and now let's play with this and figure out the sort of things you can do. And so I remember there's a game. What is it called? Game about a minotaur in a china shop that was great. Sort of a predecessor to like Human Fall Flat or Gang Beasts or that sort of like weird, funny physics game of today. People were doing this sort of experimentation where it's like, oh hey, it's really fun to just like break stuff and see stuff fall and get knocked around and have fun with the sort of unpredictability and unreliability of physics. Um, and a lot of that early work I think was um, the work of Flash devs who did that. And I mean, it also led to like Angry Birds, right? Like that sort of um, let's launch and have things happen. Okay, I need to go a lot earlier to get that star. Or a lot later. Oh, not that late. Little buddy pet. Oh yeah, yeah, where you're like, so there were a whole bunch of these things where it was like almost a paper doll combined with those games that were like, I hate Barney, kill Barney, um, but with a physics simulation behind it. So there'd just be a little mannequin, and you could like flop it around and whack it into walls, and like there'd be an array of weapons you could use, and you could be like knife, and it would stab the thing, and sort of it was that sort of like edgy teenager sort of thing where it's like, haha, look at that, how awful I'm treating this thing. Um, and again, like that sort of thing was able to be made because I mean, you should. There is definitely a kind of game historian project to be done on the prevalence of games about killing Barney. I remember an asteroids game that existed in the early internet. We're talking like 94, 95, where it was asteroids, except the asteroids were Barney's head, and he would go like, "Oh, oh no," when you. Oh, that's a painful effect. My voice is not up for that level of falsetto, but he would make sounds of distress when you blew up a Barney head. Um, yeah. Uh, but yeah, like that sort of buddy game where like you're whacking things into spikes and all that, and part of the fun is just seeing the thing flop around. Like physics engines weren't a thing before 2006, 2005, 2006 or so. Like for your like hobbyist dev. I'm trying to remember when. So Half-Life 2 was the game that like used Havoc physics, I want to say. Um, And it was like one of the first commercial games that just played with physics in a game that wasn't about physics. Like it was about other things, but there was also a heavy physics component to it. And just a few years later, that sort of stuff was accessible to anyone with Box 2D and a lot of the early physics systems um, that became just stuff that anyone could play with, just with a little bit of programming experience, self-taught, whatever. There we go. And that sort of experimentation, like, was part of the whole Flash world, because you could, make a game and get $500 for it, and pay for food and maybe most of rent, depending on where you were living, um, and you could churn them out. Well, churn them out. I'm not trying to make it sound trivial, but like you could put them together relatively quickly. You could do weird stuff because the total investment was so low. Because in part standards were low, right? Like the Flash games of 2005 through 2010 were like diagonal. That's hard. Um, were relatively. It was fine to be ugly or simplistic or awkward, um, which was very cool because it meant that you could make different sorts of games and people could make games that represented stuff they were interested in that like no one would make a commercial game out of. What just happened? Oh, right. I've got some inertia. So when I trigger that launch, there's sort of I'm going down. Is this reversed? Yeah. So I'm going down like this, and even if I launch a thing going up, I'm gonna do a little curve, like shoop. So I need to account for that. Yeah, and part of the level of like feedback and comments and like cross pollination of game designs was in part due to the fact that these were all free, right? Because they were sponsored in a time when internet ads made money in a way that they don't at the moment. Um, they could be free and they could be accessible and still be a way that people could make a living. Which currently there are a bunch of people making great free games, but they're not making a living off of it anymore. Um, and like you didn't have microtransactions in order to do that. And because each game was bite-sized, people were comfortable playing a game for an hour and being like, "That was cool, thanks. Here's what I liked. I'll show it to my friends." Um, and there wasn't. I didn't really get an impression that like people really wanted value, like in the way that currently folks are like, well, this game here costs $10. Was a mobile game. Um, its desktop version costs $10. And there were people in the reviews being like, I don't know, is it worth $7.99 on sale? I don't know. But like, sure it is. Like, you might not want to pay that money for it. Great. But it's not like, is this directional? Yeah. Um, it's not like there's a difference between this is charging too much for what it offers, and this is something that I do not want to pay that much money for right now, right? Um, and that wasn't part of the equation in the Flash game world. Now, I very much remember being at a conference and having a person from Addicting Games say, what we're looking for in addictinggames.com, which at the time was owned by, I forget who owned them, but it was like maybe Facebook's Flash game portal or something like that. Um, but the person walked up on stage in front of a bunch of Flash devs and said, "What we're looking for in a game is a game that someone will play for 30 seconds." And that was just so disheartening to me because, like, I didn't make long games, certainly, but I made games that I wanted people to see all of, right? I wanted people to get to an ending of, and like I was saying a thing. Sometimes I wasn't saying very much, but I was saying a thing, and that sort of treating these works of art as throwaway things was something that I was a huge bummer to me. And that was not a universal perspective. Like the people that I tended to work with, Congregate, Armor Games, Newgrounds, those were people who genuinely cared about the product, about the not just about the product, about the craft, the art, the stuff that was being made, and they totally had commercial interests as well, and like would I had many emails that I think were sincere that were, hey, this is a really cool game, but we're going to pass on it because we don't think it's for our audience. Because I also got many times when I would send something out, just wouldn't get an email back, which if they didn't like it at all, they wouldn't reply or they'd give a more in like distant response. Um, but in part, I think because a lot of the early folks who ran the early successful Flash portals were coming from, Tom Fulp of Newgrounds was a Flash artist, still makes games. The Congregate people were very interested in the community building and like what are games. They would hire people who were from the Flash games world to work for them. Armor Games was always a space that was very interested in like maintaining a sort of feel to the stuff that they had on their site. Um, I've already gone down that way, and so that was always the sort of folks that I was more interested in working with, because like they recognized, hey, we've got a cool thing here. Okay, that's where I need to go. Managing that inertia is so hard. A little later. And that enabled stuff like Fantastic Contraption and all these other weird ass physicsy games to exist. In part because people kind of cultivated a place for them to live. And I mean, I think that sort of combination storefronts and communities like itch.io currently serve to provide similar spaces for stuff like that. But I think it's likely that fewer people are making a living off of itch.io than we're making a living off of the Flash game world. Which is a bummer. Because like it's not like there are fewer people playing games right now. Okay. Wow, that is a lot of inertia. And as with many things, the problem is capitalism. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So yeah, on the topic of puzzle progression, this is around the time when if I were not playing this on stream, I would be like, oh, I'm gonna want to see a change soon, or I'm gonna get bored. Yeah, download and install. I think that a lot of platforms are working on that. I mean, especially if like so Itch now has a client that's very nice, but before Itch had a client, it was just kind of a barrier to entry to be able to have to click on a thing and like pick what folder you're going into and like open that or extract it somehow and then run it. Like, you know, I'm comfortable with that. A lot of folks who play games are, but it's especially someone who's new to that like experience is going to have a lot more trouble with that, and that's limiting. And I think that some of the clients that are getting set up help with that. Oh, I'd completely forgotten about the cool. Was it a TIG source? There's an indie game client that existed for a while and may still be around that streamlined that experience. And I think that's one of the ways to foster that sort of community. Um, and Itch is doing pretty well at it on a certain level of like being the place where people go for X kind of game. So like if you're looking for weird horror games, you probably know to go to Itch and a few places like that. If you're looking for like weird porn games of a certain type, you know that Itch is the place to go for that. If you're looking for like weird experimental student projects, you know to go to Itch. And it's got community support for some of that sort of thing. But I mean, the fact the money is such a big question, where like at the moment, sort of AAA companies and console manufacturers have sort of taken over the indie title and are have learned from the Flash days and from other indie developers on, you know, people actually are interested in new weird things, which was a lesson it took a very long time for them to learn. But like the fact that they've adopted that, and that there are now kind of AA game developers or like AAA indie or whatever, the high budget indie stuff, means that people have a higher expectation, just in my experience, of how fancy a game should be. And that is a challenge. Like Avery MD and I running future-proof games, like we don't yet have sort of the capital, the audience built up, and the income built up to be able to bootstrap ourselves into a place where we can make really flashy trailers with beautiful art, or where we can get like the sort of hype that you need to build up even a small successful Kickstarter. And there's stuff we're working on. There's ways we have learned to be able to do that and so on. But it's still real tough, and it is a real learning experience to be able to do that when like there was absolutely a time in my life when I could just with an idea and, you know, I mean, a bachelor's degree in computer science and, you know, enough financial support from my support network to live on my own for a little bit, I was able to make a living for a bit just off of that. And I'm not sure there's a space for that anymore. Because I don't feel like I was hugely lucky. Boy. Not sure how to get that star. I think I'm going to abandon it. And I'm sad that we no longer live in a world where folks don't have to be that lucky to make a living off of that sort of game. Huh. I like... Yeah. This is a weird ass game. Some of the precision with which you need to time these things to get them in these little gaps. I think I'm being won over by the little green teddy bear things. Like that one. Alright, now sail straight up. These eyeballs, I don't like those still. Oh yeah, yeah, the big jellyfish does kind of go, "Hey, I'm here now." That was complete luck. Weird ass game. Alright. Bounce, boost. Okay. I feel like I want to shoot, like, in order to get the star that's below that point, I kind of have to go straight up and then fall back down. But yeah, I pop real easy. Okay, that's fine. Boing. Hey, one left. Right, inertia. Physics. Science. It works. Mathematics. All that stuff. Oh man. Now I'm thinking about, there was a interactive educational CD-ROM I had as a kid. I was gonna say that I might have been a little too old for it, but I think I was probably actually the right age. That was, I now know, Cartoon Guide to Physics. I now know that it was related to a series of books, but it was really cool. It was, one of those things where it's like, it's a little virtual museum that you were wandering around, and it had a bunch of little mini games in addition to just like animations and little simulations for teaching basic physics concepts. And this reminds me of the mini game that was very hard, that was like Newtonian motion, where you were a little dude in a spacesuit, like trying to jet around and achieve goals. But if you fired your thrusters 3 times down to move up, you'd have to fire it 3 times up in order to balance out that momentum that you'd built up. And some of the like figuring out how to swoop around and back up here feels a lot like playing that game. Okay, so I'm boosting down now. Okay. Oops. Okay. Not what I wanted to do. Still moving to the left a little bit. I am. I'll just bounce for a bit. I don't think I'm moving to the left anymore. Hit the exact same damn place I did the last time I went that direction. That's also not what I want to do. Okay. Bounce over here. I need to fire it off early. Okay. And then I can there's probably some star or something I can get by boosting into this angled thing, but that sounds hard. So I'm not going to do it. Still chapter 1. Loading Lux. Alright, I'm interested. Oh, okay, this is presumably the last level in chapter 1. Oh, title screen. I've not been here before. Okay. That answers my question. There are chapters and they're at least a different color. I'm curious to see what else is different. Bouncing to the right. Boy, okay. Inertia. Okay. This timing is so tricky. I'm really glad that there are those indicators. Or this would be pretty untenable. Alright, so I can do that and go back to the left. Okay. And then I can do this, which is a little odd, but okay. There we go. And then how do I drop straight down? I don't know how to get down here. I can bounce there, and then that doesn't work, but I do this, and then like here, that's not it, but I think I'm on the right track a little later, I think. Got a star. But if I do it a little later still, I think I can go zoom over and then hit that trampoline. Yeah. And then maybe a little earlier this time will get me there. Nice. Sorry for the straw noise. Chapter 2. Oh. Hello. So, seems like air currents are going to be a thing, because if I go up too high, I get pushed into that air current there. Oh no! Feeling a little Flappy Bird. Oh no! It's pretty cute. Cute and weird. Oh, wow. So, previously a mobile game, as you can see. Hold and then let go. So much. Okay. So I can turn into a ball, and if I hold it down, I'll roll, and then when I let go, I'll sort of bounce up. More like less pinball and more, I don't know, is this a thing that Sonic does? I don't think so. So can I just keep rolling? Yeah. Cool. Very pretty light show. I like that a lot. Alright, same thing. It's interesting. I'm curious as to what sort of longevity this mechanic has. Because this seems so much simpler than the boosting thing. Although I guess the boosting thing, they added the boost in a direction. So I'm curious as to where they're going to go with this. I was too late. I like how when you explode, the game beats that get launched out still have momentum from you, and so you can kind of throw them further if you're going faster. That's a fun thing. Yeah, like, how does this level differ from the previous one? There's branching. That's different. Glitch. Some Z fighting there. Bit of art that got accidentally duplicated. Okay, so in order to jump, I have to be on the ground. I cannot boost up in midair by popping out of the ball. Loading retro. So, if y'all have not played Incredipede, it has kind of a similar make a weird monster, or not make a weird, well, in Incredipede's case, it is make a weird monster, but, excuse me, here's this kind of grotesque monster that's also kind of cute. And have them do interesting physics things, and also by Colin Northway. Journey. Kind of reminds me of the Marble Run toys, where you'd like assemble a bunch of plastic pipes together and make a huge elaborate path for some marbles or ball bearings to run along. Nope, didn't quite hit that, but got the star. I think that having levels take longer is a little bit of a too early. A little bit of a design challenge for this game, because like doing the same thing over and over can very quickly not be fun anymore. Which, I mean, I think is something that games like Super Meat Boy have trouble with, or not have trouble with, but have to use design to deal with. Roguelikes, all that, where it's like, how much repetition will the player be willing to do? In many cases, it's a great deal, but I don't know. That had to be a concern when designing levels of like, all right, how long, what. I mean, in this case, I've only got 2 actions really. I've got start the level, which I'm not counting, and then 3, I guess. Turn into a ball, pop out of a ball, and explode. Um, and so there's not a feeling that I have to like do a perfect sequence of actions in the same way as like a Super Meat Boy level. Which, speaking of Flash games, oops, I can't jump in midair. I need to remember that. Um, Super Meat Boy, also originally a Flash game. And Edmund Macmillan was making games about weird, gross monsters at the same time as I was working, at the same time as this was going on. Edmund Macmillan was actually a little bit was pretty well known earlier. Like he worked on Gish, he worked on some earlier stuff that was actually kind of pre-Flash. I think his animation work was generally in Flash, but yeah, Super Meat Boy is actually called Super Meat Boy because there was a Meat Boy. There was I keep forgetting to turn into a ball. There was a lower Phi version of that game, which was the same basic premise, but not as slick. And then might like I think that I think it was Macmillan working on Super Meat Boy that like was when he stopped putting out Flash stuff. I wasn't paying attention to my actions. I've got 2 diagonal boosts now. It brings some comfort that that I am not the only person making games, some of which are based on old Flash games that I made. Issues about repetition and puzzles, and so the question: do y'all ever struggle with issues about repetition and puzzles in EZD? What design things do y'all think about? I think we do. I mean, I definitely have inertia. I definitely have the suffer from the problem of thinking that all my puzzles have to be unique and very customized. Too early. Which I definitely think they should. Like, you don't want your puzzles to all be very samey. But something that I try to remember is that if people are continuing to play the game, they're continuing to play the game because they like what the game is. And so it is perfectly fine to have a puzzle that's like another puzzle that showed up 40 puzzles ago. As long as it's not exactly the same, like the player isn't gonna really remember. It's if the first puzzle was good, the second puzzle will also be good. I keep inching earlier on that boost. So that's all perfectly fine. And another thing is that it's tempting to try and make in Exploit Zero Day, puzzles are grouped into clusters, so that you might have like 8 puzzles all interlinked that unlock each other, all like each puzzle representing a computer system or a computer algorithm or some computery thing that are all linked in some way. So a cluster might be an entire mall, and each system is a computer in the mall, or a cluster might be one computer, and each system is an application or component of that computer. Um, but it can be tempting to say, okay, I've got 6 puzzles, I'm going to make 6 unique puzzles. And really, it's completely appropriate to be like, no, here are 6 variations on a theme. Like, we're going to start with a simple one, and we're just going to kind of do the same puzzle, but a little bit different with each one. Maybe building up on it, maybe just exploring that space. Um, and I think that part is welcome, and that, like, people tend to like variety, and I enjoy satisfying that desire, um, but variety doesn't need to mean constant novelty. Oh boy, okay. So now my first boost is up and to the left, and then right. I have to do this mirror image, so it's hard. Okay. All right. Cool. I'm not gonna bother with that star. I'm definitely not excited about stars right now. But yeah, I think that, at least for me, my patience is low enough that I rarely worry that I'm going to be too repetitious in what I make, because I know that before I get to the point where the player is going to be annoyed, I'm probably going to be annoyed and not wanting to work on it anymore. Okay. Down and to the left, then up and to the right. Not quite. Awesome. Now what? Down to the left. Okay. Cool. Which I think that impatience of mine probably is a weak spot in my craft, in my expertise. I think that being able to go, I'm going to do stuff that isn't necessarily interesting, is a strength. That's a cool parallax thing. Right, okay, so this boost is in the direction I'm traveling. That's not a right thing. So that's certainly something I want to work on. But I am okay. It's not how that power works. I'm fine not assuming or not worrying that I am going to make things that feel tedious for the player. This game. This is kind of fatiguing. Like, keeping up with these exact timings. Actually, like, I'm gonna need to take a break soon, just because of the amount to which this is challenging my brain. Which is weird, because it's like, it's not that it's hard to figure out, right? Like, very rarely am I playing this game and going, wait, how in the world am I going to do that? Once in a while I'm like, how am I? Oh, okay. Um, but it's still just the exact timing and probably in part the visual flashiness, um, like the amount I have to process in order to just understand what's going on, um, is wearing on me. Come on. I feel like I'm a fan of Patrick Klepek's Mario Maker mornings, and doing challenges like this on stream makes me feel like I have some amount of sympathy with what it must be like to fail at levels again and again, like he does. Keeping up the patter is not easy. So on that note, I think I'm going to take a bio break, grab more water, just stop seeing these critters in my field of view. Thank you. So 5 minutes, maybe shorter. I don't know. Just enough time to take a gap. Failing? Does failing mean I'm learning? Failing... I think failing is necessary for learning, but not sufficient. I think that one can fail and not learn. Alright. I'm going to take a break. So I will be back. This is good. Noting lapses. Excuse me. Right, I can turn into a ball, jump, and then launch. Okay. I'm just sort of seeing where I'm going to go. Okay. Oh, I clicked one too many times. Oops. It's probably good that it so quickly returns to the pod, but it does mean that I accidentally start another run earlier than I mean to often. Oh, I know what I need to do here. Like, I can't click fast enough. That's because that's not how I'm supposed to be doing that. Jump, launch. So much about timing on physics things is being willing to wait long enough. Like, not jumping the gun and this sort of thing. There we go. I certainly, I think, like many people, have the tendency to panic when I see a thing that seems to be a goal. We've got 2 rolling balls this time. Oh, I was able to trigger that without exploding. I've always been able to do that. Seems like maybe as I'm transitioning, I won't explode on contact. Right, I don't think I'd realized that that end of level thing actually does give you a sense of progress within a chapter. There's a bunch of dots and there's a gap. And the gap is actually where I am, which I didn't really read that. Okay, I'm gonna zoom, or whatever that's called, and then roll into a ball. Okay, so I can just roll straight through things when I'm in ball mode. But not those things. Didn't quite make it. Okay, I can probably loop around there. Yeah. Still not sure when I'm exploding. Like, what's triggering the explosion. Okay. I should have pointed out what I was talking about there. But yeah, there's the progress I can now read. Okay, zoom up and to the left. Roll into a ball. Left, right? Okay. Oh, but I stop thrusting when I switch into ball form. Okay. Eyes. I'm not sure. Wait, did the eyes move? The eyes on the walls? Are they actually watching? Oh no, I don't like that at all. It's more and more of these Z fighting surfaces. That makes me think that maybe this is not all manually, or that this is less manually placed than I thought it was, because I don't think you'd see this sort of glitching if it was just someone hand placed these even with a tool. So I bet that this is like the developer drew shapes in an editor, like took out Photoshop and drew some colored shapes, and that there's an algorithm that then turns them into this, boosting down and then turning into a ball. It's not gonna do it. Maybe I can jump away from that edge. Yeah. They do move. I don't like that at all. I missed my sequence. Okay, two balls in a row. Damn, not what I meant to do. Finger slipped. Three left in the chapter. Two balls. Where are we going from here? So I think now I need to jump and get on top of this. Although... That wasn't what I thought would happen. I guess I didn't form back into the ball fast enough. How do I get over there? That's not how. Oh, I bet I can jump off of this ramp. So I need to jump over the trampoline, and jump there. Yep. Optio. Wow, okay. Zoom, ball, then left. Like that. Oof, this is a lot to keep track of. There's still the left after that. Just counting the number of times I'm clicking, it's a thing. Inertia again. It's hard to remember that I need to click before before I'm there. Like, I can't turn a corner sharply. All right, how am I? Yes, that was a long shot. A little janking it. One left. Loading Iaculor. Zoom, ball, zoom. Explore. Okay. Damn. That was just bad luck. I do not have enough inertia. There we go. Background staying the same mostly with interactive parts in front of it. I'm not sure. So there's a whole bunch of parallax layers back here. And I'm not sure if it's different from level to level. It certainly hasn't seemed to have anything hugely interesting in it. Damn, too many clicks. Too many clicks, too many clicks. Let's see, okay, so, well, of course now I think that was the last level of the chapter, so I think it'll change dramatically, but I will keep an eye out in the next chapter. That is a too many clicks reference. Chapter 3. This is the same transition as I got between avoid the high winds by sinking low. I know. The same transition as between 1 and 2. I know I'm supposed to sync. It's the swirly stink that I'm having trouble with. I mean, trigger warnings on that video link for gore and existential terror and creepers and grapple. Excellent. I guess, I don't know, objectification of women, scary puppets, all of that. Hold to grapple. Yes. Grappling hooks are great. Okay, so background's definitely different here in the new chapter. And I think the things I am how do I put this delicately? The things that I am seeding change with each chapter. Okay, so grapple always goes up, it looks like. So can I swing forward and then swing back? I can't. Okay. I need to really thread the needle on that. Missed. Pollinating. The things I'm pollinating, they'll say. Building Transilio. Oh, okay. Grapples in a different direction each time. I like grappling hooks. Strongly with rock, paper, shotgun on the fact that grappling hooks make games better. It is fun. I like grappling hooks. It reminds me of Pixel Junk Eden, which has very good grappling hook critter in it. Have I done any game? I don't think any of the games that I've worked on have had grappling hooks. And more the fool I. I have had interesting movement. Rats Under My Skin, the weird jumping cat game that Melissa, that Avery MD and I worked on as a jam game, has pretty interesting movement. I've been thinking about a good segue to talk about the remaining Flash game that we released, which is How to Raise a Dragon. And it is also downloadable. I think I've told the story of its inception before, but the person who's the head of Armor Games, which I'm currently completely blanking on the name of. Wow. I mean, I've worked with him a long time. I've met him several times. Daniel McNeely, maybe? Something like that? Yeah. Um, uh, the Majesty of Colors had been successful. What am I missing? And he emailed me and was like, so we're Armor Games. Our shtick is that what am I supposed to do here? Oh, I know. We've got kind of a medieval thing going on. Can you make a medieval Majesty of Colors? Like, do the Majesty of Colors thing again, uh, but, you know, medieval. And that might come across as a little mercenary, but I know him well enough, and I know that he knows games well enough to know that, like, he knew. It was one of those he knew what I knew what he meant things. Like, that game was to a certain extent a kind of a unique thing that was tricky to duplicate, but one could make, like, the things that made it what it was at its core were things like a lot of choices you didn't necessarily know you were making, and you know, inhabiting a weird creature and seeing things from a different perspective, and a lot of words that were unnecessarily in a certain voice, unnecessarily that were, you know, playing up a genre voice, and so that ended up growing into how to raise a dragon, which at the time I had never heard of. How to Train Your Dragon? Is that what it is? There's a movie that ended up like coming out at roughly the same time that I think was a book before, but was completely unaware of, and now it sort of seems like it was a cash grab on my part, trying to capitalize on the movie. That was not what happened, but how am I gonna get over there? But I think that what I ended up making, it was, I mean, very successful, millions of plays and so on, and I think was satisfying as the sort of game that worked well for Armor Games. I think it was very well received by the folks in that community, and turned out to be the sort of thing that he wanted, even if, like, when you are a software developer, there is a technique that is very important, which is just sort of like figuring out how to talk to people and understand what they actually want, because, like, communicating this sort of stuff is hard. It's very hard to describe games. It's very hard to talk about what you like about games. It's hard to pitch a game. It's hard to request a game, and so I think that was a good example of one of those times where neither of us really knew how to talk about it, but by talking about it in a way which was a weird way of talking about it, we were able to arrive at something that was close to what we wanted. Okay, shoots out to the right and then shoots out to the left. So, like that. All the way around. That's not actually what I wanted, but that's fine. The mathematics here. Thinking about how, so when you're swirling around an object, like, so the grappling hook is going out, and the normal vector to the circle that you're describing is your current velocity, and so when you release the grappling hook, you'll continue on in the same direction you're going, which is always perpendicular to the radius of the circle you're describing, with the radius being the grappling hook. And that's all emergent. Like, they didn't code a thing in there that says when you let go of grappling hook, then do a bunch of math to calculate what the velocity should be at that point. No, they're just physically simulating that, and that just arises from the constraints. get over to the left, though? That was a weird thing. Okay. It was just a glitch. I think it missed a mouse up event, and I had the mouse button up, but it was still hanging onto the grappling hook. How do I get over there? Maybe I can get up enough velocity. That's not gonna work. I'll swing back this way and sort of arc up. Nope. Okay, build up more momentum. Swing that way. Swing this way. Launch. Nope. I'm firing left, so I can't... Maybe I need to fall all the way down here and then swing up. So I go like this. I go like this. I'm not shallower. Yeah, there we go. I think I'm gonna get presumably, unless I get stuck, I'm gonna go to the end of chapter 3, and then if there is more, I'm going to call it after that. Oh, missed. Nope. Ooh. Not what I intended, but that's fine. Also not what I intended. 2 accidental stars. Oops. Alright, now I think I want to go full circle here. If I want to do that, I need to shoot later. And then kind of boop it. Tractus. Firing left. Oh wow. A lot going on. I bet there's some challenges that one could have related to getting these done in the least number of launches. Shots in a certain amount of time. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something that I haven't spotted yet, or something unlocks that supports that sort of challenge. Huh. I don't know what happens if I grapple. Okay, nothing. I need to explode early. Nope. There's the complex physical system. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to impact shallowly on this. right? More sharply on this. There we go. Cute kind of owl tree thing going on there. Did I say that I liked grappling hooks? It doesn't sound like something I would say. Good enough. I'll take it. I do love grappling hooks. I can't even joke. There's a VR game called Jet Island that I need to play more of, where you have a hoverboard and grappling hooks on each hand, and you're sort of like Spider-Man hoverboarding around and fighting things, and there's a huge like weird sky snake that is presumably the boss of the game flying around overhead. It's pretty cool. Nope. I need to build up more momentum. Somehow. Damn. So to build up more momentum, I'm translating my velocity. So I need to let myself fall a little bit. Okay. Ugh. Not translating my velocity, transforming my velocity. Nope. It's funny. One-button games actually have 2 affordances. Arguably 3. There's pushing the button down, and there's letting go of the button. And if someone told me that they considered, come on, holding the button down a separate affordance, I would believe them. And would not argue. Yeah, so I think the music just transforms every time you hit a goal, which is a cool way of doing it. I like that. Seven left. Boost up, grapple right. Oh, okay. So because I'm boosting, I can get velocity that I can then grapple with. Is this going down at an angle? Or am I... No, it's going pretty even. I'm just misunderstanding how momentum works. That doesn't seem right. Excuse me. This works far better than whatever the hell I was doing. Euchris. Boost right and then grapple. Nope, that's not the way to do it. Again, that was luck. I don't think I can zoom through that bottom gap. I say, then immediately do it. Missed what I wanted to grapple. I can never duplicate again. Why did I miss that again? Five left. Loading Jactus. What? Wait, what are my abilities? Do I turn into a ball? Grapple right, ball. Okay. Nope. 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 That's not what I intended. Yeah, definitely ending it one way or another at the end of this chapter, because as you can tell, I've grown silent and focused. Nope, did not get that. Swoop around. Okay. Take that. Can I jump at the right time? No. Swing around here. Yeah. Loading adipissing. Adipis. Like P-I-S-C. Like Ada would be under. Ada, A-D-I. P-I-S-C would be fish. Complete luck. Boost right, grapple, ball. Alright. I'm gonna need to swing around that circular thing and then turn into a ball and just keep rolling. Swing down here. Okay. Now, boost right. I think I want to boost right and then fail to grapple. Yeah. Now. Nope. Boost, grapple, roll. Okay. That's where I'm going. How do I get there? Maybe I just... Oh, that was accidental. That hit through a wall. I shouldn't have won that one, but I'll take it. 2. Roll like a ball. Okay. Alright, I roll, then I grapple up, then I roll again. Alright, last one for tonight, and maybe for the game. I'm not sure how many chapters there are. Boost in the direction I'm traveling, then turn into a ball, then grapple up and right. Excellent. Boost, then ball, then grapple. See if I can just kind of drop in. Excellent. Boost, ball, jump. Nope. Boost, ball, jump. I don't want to jump. I want to jump earlier, maybe. I don't want to pop straight up. I want to pop like at an angle so I can then swing underneath that thing. Again, doing everything weirdly mirror imaged. Oh, or I could just fucking roll. Just keep rolling. Don't jump. Just keep rolling. Oh, there's another one. Did not realize. Oh, huh. How do I get down there? trying to fit into that gap there. And then what am I swinging off of? That. Excellent. Alright. End of chapter 3. Chapter 4. Alright, so thank you all for joining me. This has been Future Proof Plays Deep Under the Sky. Lovely game. I recommend it, especially if you like physicsy stuff. It seems like if I go all the way out, can I tell? Okay, so I can't go forward from here. So I don't know exactly how long it is. At least 4 chunks. And it's good. It's the kind of work that has come out of folks who were Flash folks. Colin Northway was a Flash person. Rich Edwards, who worked on Pineapple Bombs. It's not Pineapple Bomb Squad. Damn, it's late. But one of the developers is a Flash developer. One of the developers was not originally a Flash developer, to my knowledge. And it's cool stuff. We at Future Proof Games have recently packaged up some of my old Flash games in a format that's downloadable, so you can play them on your computer and don't need to go through a browser anymore, and which you shouldn't before too long. Flash is going to sunset in 2020, and after that point, it's no longer safe to run Flash stuff you find on the internet that comes. I mean, even if you think the source is trusted, I'd stick with downloadable stuff because it can be packaged with a known. Because it's a combination of a known Flash file, a known game, and a known Flash client. It's relatively unlikely, if you trust, us or whoever you're getting it from, that something's going to go wrong there. But 4 games. I fell in love with the Majesty of Colors, How to Raise a Dragon, Exploit, and Silent Conversation are currently available at futureproofgames.itch.io or futureproofgames.com, or the link that AveryMD is going to drop in the chat. And I hope to have more coming. Games like Looming, games like The Mold Fairy, games like The Day, and a Ride Home. Well, Ride Home, we don't need to repackage. Ride Home is Unity. I should check to see if that's got a downloadable form, because I think that maybe it's only in the form of a no longer supported embed. So I should check on that too. Other than that, we are currently working on Exploit 0 Day, which is a follow-up to the Flash game Exploit. It's a social hacktivism game where you're playing social justice hacktivist, helping the unfortunate and the oppressed by solving puzzles that represent computer systems. We're also going to be working on more additions to Cultivating Insurgency, which is our game about guerrilla gardening. And we've been discussing some further work on both the Majesty of Colors Remastered, which is the modern upgrade to that game, which will be very minor. We're not talking like new game modes. And then stuff that we're doing with Rosette Diceless, which is our tabletop role-playing system and live-action role-playing system that's very collaborative and consent-based and story-focused, and I don't know if fast-moving is the right term, lightweight. You don't need to juggle a whole lot of rules in order to play it. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Avery MD, Melissa will be having a stream of their own in probably a couple of weeks. I don't think that we've picked what that will be yet, but it will be another short, cool indie game of some sort, almost definitely. Um, so yeah, follow me here, follow Avery MD if you want to see the next Future Proof plays, and you can follow us on Twitter at Play Future Proof. You can go to futureproofgames.com to get podcast subscriptions or just see our development blog. Yeah, if you have a recommendation, you can send it to us at info@futureproofgames.com or tweet at us or whatever. And boy, what else? If you're the sort to like email contact, we have an Exploit Zero Day email list. Um, and we'll probably be announcing like new communication strategy news sometime in the next months. Um, so keep up with us, and we would love to hear from you if you've got suggestions or feedback. Yeah, we're happy to pay for games that we play on stream. So yeah. So I will call it. Thank you again for hanging out with me, and have a nice night.
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way. Feel it in the darkness. We're sailing right into those jagged cliffs. Yeah. Some say we've always been insane. Hey, life's a foolish game. Simple equation for an enclosed system.